Oh, we are starting the live stream now. Hello, Anitha.
Hey,
Welcome. Thanks for accepting the, to join my channel in the discussion. And how do we see? This is my first time, like I said. How do we see if somebody is watching? Oh, I can see it here, right?
yes,
Okay, cool. So while we are waiting for others to join and more people to join, Anita, would you like to give a brief introduction of yourself and your channel?
sure. I'm Anitha Gade and I read more fantasy, rarely science fiction, very rarely historical fiction. That's all.
Yeah, and she has a wonderful channel. I What I like about her channel is I like the way she summarizes the book, the plot summary, and because I struggle a lot with plot summary, but Anita has this really, good knack of, you know, getting the essence of the book. Seriously, I cannot do that. I always, every time after my book review, I go back and see, oh, I missed out this, I missed out that. But she is very concise, and so if you want to have a look at great book reviews, then do go and check out her channel.
You know, coincidentally, my first book review on my channel was book by Octavia Butler, Parable of the Sewer. When I started to review that book, I just stayed at camera for an hour without opening my mouth. So I had a lot to talk about it, but I could not, frame. Structure my thoughts. Okay, what to talk about first? Do I have to talk about summary, or do I have to talk about characters, or do I have to talk about themes? The structure, I'm always, confused what to start, what to talk about. So, because of that experience, I always think about it and note it down first, and then sit in front of camera.
Dense, yeah, and that can that you can see that you have put in effort into your book reviews. It's not just you simply rambling on, but you can see that you have taken the essence and then you're talking about the book. So yeah, today we are going to talk about Octavia E. Butler's Kindred. Do you have a physical copy,
No,
or
I
you read
from
an ebook?
library.
Ah, okay. You know what? I so wish I had a library nearby so that I don't have to buy every book that I'm planning to read. But yeah, the library that I have is very far away, so I can't just go off and get my books. So this is my first Octavia E. Butler book. I've always been, wanting to read the book, especially since I started BookTube, because that's where I first heard about her. And it's surprising that I haven't heard of her before. So after joining BookTube, I discovered her, and I was like, there were so many raving reviews about her books. Especially, I was surprised that she is a science fiction writer in general, and I haven't heard about her. So yeah, I was so excited to getting into this. Before we get into the details, do you want to give a short, um, a brief thought of what you thought about the book?
Okay.
Final.
This is my third Octavia Butler. I already read her Parable of Sever and Parable of Talents books.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of know what to expect. Butler doesn't go into details. She explores themes that are important, and she most of the time she leaves us to draw our own conclusions. And her writing is very uh, nonchalant. She doesn't go deep into that. She doesn't exploit our emotions. That's what I like about her writing, and that's exactly what I see even in this book.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very what I say. I mean, we have seen many people cover this topic, even in movies, but Butler's approach to this subject, to slavery, is completely different. This is not a direct, straightforward critique of slavery. It's more
Mm.
about a human exploration of those themes. That's what I like about it.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And but when you say, if I may ask, that she doesn't um, about human sentiments, right? What you said about feelings and sentiments. So did you feel that it was not deep enough, or it was not touching enough, or how was that?
Okay, see, the concepts, every theme here is horrifying, frightening, and
Mm.
definitely it makes us think. They are very thought provoking. But she does not tell us anything what these characters are feeling. She does not. Delve into the how horrifying these characters are feeling. She led that choice to ours.
Okay, I understood. So the story unfolds, and it's up to the readers to decide how to feel about them, right? Or the characters and the plot in general.
Exactly.
I get that, yeah. But for me, if I want to summarize my experience, I I had a vague idea because science. I knew that it was kind of time travel and science fiction, but that was not the main theme. Yeah, something like Before the Coffee Gets Cold, right? Because even though that is also time travel, have you read Before the Coffee Gets Cold?
No, but I saw reviews and I saw people talking about it, so I know the concept of it.
Right. So science fiction is just like, let me say, it's like a literary device as such, but that's not the theme. That's not the core of the story. Even before the story gets not story, coffee gets cold. So in Kindred also, I think science fiction is just a device Butler uses to transport this modern age, 21st century woman into the antebellum South, and when she reaches there, her experience, which is just a device. So I wouldn't call it a science fiction book. I would call it like a historical fiction, or yeah, something like that, where or African American narrative. Hi, Joanna here. So hi, Joanna. Thanks for joining. You love this book. I too. I just can't believe I waited for so long to read this book. At least I had a good experience buddy reading this with Anita. So we were discussing that our overall experience. So for me, this made me cry at many times because of the uh, torture scenes, you can call it, uh, right? And to what made it worse is that it's not just story. It's these are things that actually affected people, you know, who this is not just an imagination, right? Or a fantasy world. These are things that actually people had to endure back in the days. So that's what made it more depressing for me. In fact, halfway through the book, I did stop it because it was getting too too depressing for me, and I got back to my Robin Hobb, which I was reading again with you guys. So yeah, I think this was a wonderful experience for me. Um, the writing style is very simple. It's very approachable, but at the same time, it doesn't take away from the um, what do you call that? Um, the expert way she handles this topic. Like you said, it's such a heavy topic, but it's up to the audience to take and absorb, what they want to from the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Though it's listed as science fiction, it's only a tool to take this modern woman to 1800s.
Mm.
Through our main character's eyes only we approach the subject also. So, though I mean it is a historical fiction, but science fiction is just a tool. The time travel is.
Yeah, it's just there. I mean, we don't know how it happens, and how she is taken back to her own time. So there is no importance given to it, given to those things at all by Butler. So it's just left as an unexplained phenomenon, right? Basically, the should we talk about the summary, or maybe I will
Sure.
leave it to you because you are the expert in summarizing books. Anita.
if anyone doesn't know what is this book about, it's mostly about this 25-year-old African American woman who is living in 1970s, but one day she travels back in time to 1800s, so to save a kid. Later in the book, this kid grows into an young man, but whenever this kid gets into trouble, I mean, whenever this kid experiences a life and death situation, then this woman automatically travels back in time. Later we find out that this kid is an ancestor to her, so his survival is key to her survival in present time. So that's how story unfolds. This is a African American woman, and she's traveling back to 1800s to Baltimore, so she has to survive. So what are her experiences, or how, I mean, what kind of people she meet there, what kind of experiences she faced there, is that's what the story is about.
Yeah. So well summarized. Thanks, Anita. So you want to talk about the characters, the main characters. So the first character would be our protagonist, our the heroine, which would be Dana, right? And then, what do you think of Dana? How would you describe her?
Okay, this is going to be tough. You know, she's a I think she's a, I don't call her perfect. At the same time, she's a very good character. Butler
Mm,
shows a very good character. You know, it is very clear in the book how her, as a modern woman, how she felt. You know, going
mm,
back there and seeing all horrifying things she's seeing. At the same time, her connection with is the key. I mean, I don't want to go into spoilers now. Can we talk spoilers, or are we
mm.
in a non-spoiler zone?
I think currently we are in non-spoiler zone.
So, I mean, she figured out that Rufus is her ancestor. So, at the same time, she met him as a kid. You know, as a
Mm,
kid, he's in that, he's a not a bad kid, so she saw hope there, so she kind of formed a bond there. So her uh, emotional internal turmoil with her own feelings with Rufus is key to this book. So I
mm.
kind of like her character. At the same time, I understand her decisions.
Yeah, I agree with that part, but again, without going to the spoiler, I sometimes just couldn't relate to her towards the end of the book, where she is feeling sympathy towards Rufus, and also trying to find excuses for the things that he is doing, if you know what I mean, right? And I don't know, from where I'm coming from, I just couldn't relate to that part of Dana at all. Did you feel that? I mean, or is it just me trying to nitpick?
I mean, I kind of understand. In that moment when I'm reading that,
Mm.
in that moment I was like, oh no, why are you doing this, why are you feeling that way? But later, I mean, I'm a slow reader. Every sentence or every page I'll read and I think about it, I process it. Then I was like, okay, I understand, I calm down.
Okay, okay, but I don't know. I was at a stage where I somehow wanted somebody to just kill Rufus. I mean, that was the case from the beginning, until, uh, from the time he was a young man, right? I mean, if you encounter a man like that today, you would just run away from that person, right? You wouldn't want to be around that
Actually,
person.
not exactly. You know, that's what I wanted to. I mean, I wanted to
Hmm.
talk about it more into the spoiler section. So
Okay.
I'll remember
Yeah,
what you
yeah.
said
So
here.
let's park it then. Yeah. So next character, what do you think about uh Alice? Alice is one of my favorites, I would say. Uh Oh, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm thinking.
Oh,
I'm,
okay.
Alice is such a great character. Actually, it's a very straightforward character. I mean, it's understandable. She's born free. She isn't a slave. See, it's understandable where she's coming from, why she's such a fighter. That's why she
Mhm.
could not, okay, I don't want to go into spoilers, but I mean, she wants to choose her own path. That's why she doesn't want to accept things for survival.
Mhm.
And it is a very struggle for her being born as a free person.
Yeah, right. And also, I feel that even though she is born in that time and age, where women in general are oppressed and black people are oppressed, but at the same time, when compared to Dana, I think she has much more strength of character. I feel she was much she came across much more as a stronger person for me when compared to Dana, because Dana, at many points, I felt that many times she was just slipping away, right? She was going with the flow and trying to fit in, trying to impress Rufus. But Alice was not. She knew what she was. Like you said, she was born as a free person. But even though she doesn't have the advantage of the education which Dana had, or the exposure to a free world of 21st century, she didn't have any of that. Yet I thought that she came across as a very admirable character.
Okay, I want to make 2 points. First one
Mm,
is one of the most important things in this book is how easy it is to accept slavery. Okay, even Dana says to her husband, for children, how easy it is. I think there is a
mm.
dialogue also.
Yeah.
We
Yes.
When we put into that situation, it is very easy to accept slavery. Even if we if we get into that kind of times now, I can see many people accepting things. Very few people choose. Of course, initially people fight, but when it comes to situations like life and death situations where they have to make a choice between survival and
Survival. Yeah.
living like that, I can see people accepting slavery, or I mean, I don't mean to offend anyone. I meant to say accepting that kind of power to
Mm,
someone over us. Very few people choose to fight. uh, Alice is the kind of person who choose to fight,
mm,
irrespective of consequences. At the
mm,
same time, my second point is there is a difference between Dana and Elise. Though Dana is, more educated, she kind of formed a bond with Rufus. At this
mm,
and her approach is completely different, whereas Alice did not have that kind of bond with Rufus. She started her journey, she had a good reason to hate Rufus, not
mm,
going into
mm,
spoilers. um,
mm,
um, yes, definitely, Alice is more of a fighter. That's how it came across as. But at the same time, she isn't maybe completely practical.
mm. Yeah. Because she is. You mean Alice, right? That she's not practical.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's true. But at the same time, to have that amount of bravery and that amount of conviction, you know, and in those times when you know that the consequences of doing such and such is, you know, being flayed or being whipped, but in spite of that, you do that. That also shows that person's uh, strength, right? In her conviction, right? So that's what impressed me about Alice. And I mean, maybe further along in her life, she would have been, if whatever happened didn't happen, she would have become motivation for others, right? Um, in the whatever the whole Civil War situation. But
Can we jump to spoilers?
yes, I know that you are desperate to get it. Let's do that.
Okay. What I wanted to say is, to be honest, even Alice, for her, yes, she is very strong and she cannot,
Mhm.
adjust here as a slave. At the same time, even she survived there. She kind of compromised for some time. Dana has to do the same thing, she kind of finished it completely. She cut the cord there. So it was very easy for Dana to close her eyes. I mean, sorry, it is a wrong phrase of words. It is not easy for her. She really suffered. She struggled to see that kind of things. At the same time, Rufus was kind of nice to her, be kind to her compared to others. That's why she's able to, you know. Uh, uh, mellow down a little, at least until the end.
Hmm. Yeah. But like what you wanted to say something earlier on about Rufus, right? Some spoiler thing, or was
Uh,
it me?
we'll get there when we are in
So
the
what I
middle.
wanted to say about Rufus is that Rufus at the end when he is, that's where I cannot at all relate to Dana, is that when he is about to rape her, right? She says that okay, maybe it's there is a time where she is in a dilemma where is it okay for him to do this, is it okay if I allow him to do that, but then she makes up her mind no, and then she does whatever she does. So that's where I felt like yes, I know, I agree with all the things. I in fact made notes of or notes also about that I agree with you that yes, it's easier when you go into a situation, when you're put into a situation, only then you will know how you will react. It's easier for us to sit here and judge that that person did so and so. I agree with that. You can become a supporter of whatever is the what do you call that, normal in those times, right? Whatever is considered normal or legal in those times, you can go with the flow. So slavery was normal and legal at that time, and she reaches there and she goes with the flow. Even Kevin, which whom I towards the end of the book I had no feelings for Kevin at all. I
Yeah.
completely became unempathetic with him. So because he got all the advantage of a white man, he never thought or he couldn't even relate. He was a token progressive person. I think that's what the journey back to time it proved, right? He has this somewhere in his mind the superiority of being a white man, and he made use of that, and he survived.
What do you expect? I mean, what do you expect from him actually?
No, no. Yeah, I'm actually what I'm saying is it's very realistic, like you said, Kevin being that way, because you are in a world or in a time period where it can be dangerous that you're associated with an African American woman, right? But initially, even though he tries his best to protect her and all that, after some point they become the children of that time period. They are no longer 21st century people. I feel that both
I
of them, in fact.
mean, they just um, put in that kind of world. So their initial goal is to survive. uh,
Mm,
so I kind of understand. I mean, I'm not saying that he's perfect or something, but I kind of understand his their goal. They are not planning long term there. They were like,
mm,
okay, when by the time Dana is ready to go back to their world, they have to survive by any means. That's what their goal
mm,
was. But when
mm.
Kevin, stayed back here for 10 years, of course, we did not get Kevin's perspective at all. But
Yeah.
there was kind of talk that he tried to save some people. So
Mm.
I will not be so harsh on him. At the same time, it's not like he's my favorite character or such.
Yeah, that's true. for who is your favorite character and least favorite character?
I don't know. Least favorite. There are a lot of people to choose from. Any person like Tom Whalen or Margaret or Rufus. Any person. Favorite as in it's very. This book is not about characters for me. This book is about more about themes and how these
Themes, yeah.
characters, travel through that.
Exactly, that's true. So I think this is a, you can't even call it plot driven. It is very theme driven, right? It's all about this theme of oppression and slavery and violence and torture and all these dark themes, right? And it can become a little bit overwhelming. So readers who haven't read it, like Kiran from Noob Readers has commented, she hasn't read it yet, but the book sounds amazing. It is really good. It is very relevant even now, with the BLM, movement that's going
This is
on.
oh, I remember now what I wanted to talk about, Rufus.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
I wanted to talk about how relevant it is to us, even in our present times. It kind of the themes
Mm.
explode here. If we just remove that slavery term, if we just remove that, I don't even want to remove whipping. I just want to remove that dogs chasing people. If we just
Mhm.
remove that, it kind of reminded me of all abusive relationships you
Mhm.
know
Mhm. Mhm.
there is one dialogue between Kevin and Dana, I think. Once they're back to their present time, they were discussing. Kevin mentions that how surprised he was, that there is no supervisor or something in their field. People did not have work beyond what they are capable of, something like that. Then Dana, one minute, I took notes. I'll just check that one. Mm. Dana responds like this: no decent housing, dirt floors to sleep on, food so inadequate, and no rights and the possibility of being mistreated. You don't have to beat people to treat them brutally. That's
Right,
how
right,
she.
right. I remember that. Now that you say it, yes, exactly. Right. You don't have to be violent all the time, right? Or enforcing in that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
That's a very passive aggressive way of getting your things done. Yes.
exactly. And there are many themes like this, and there are many dialogues like this. It made me think of, abusive relationships, or in worst cases, most marriages I have seen as a kid, back in India. I mean,
Mm.
many people, especially many women, live in those kind of situations where, though they are in oppressed relationships, be it from husbands, be it from in-laws, whatever, they chose to stay calm and serve. I mean, just survive their, maybe because of for the sake of their kids.
Children, yeah. Hmm. I agree, I agree. But not just in domestic sense, but in terms of the politics also, like Black Lives Matters movement itself, is still relevant, right? Because these, even though slavery is abolished, but but what do you call that? But I'm not getting the word now. What is it called? Oppression, right, that they are facing, it is still there in some way or the other. That's why those movements are still relevant. That's why people are supporting those movements. And when you come to India, same things happens with the Dalit movements as well, right? It's very, very relevant. I remember my mom and my grandparents talking about how they went through being the oppressed. And it was very pathetic. It was very heart wrenching to hear some of their stories. Really, I mean, even it's more heart wrenching than what some things that are described here. So yeah, so even now it is relevant in many ways if you think about it. So this book, I'm telling you, if you go into this book, this is for our viewers. If you go into this book uh, with you know not expecting a science fiction where there are flying cars or anything, not that kind of science fiction. It's a very theme driven story, plot, lot of importance to human sentiments. There is a lot of political undertones in terms of addressing issues like racism and slavery, but not in your face, but through the telling of the story itself, through the narration of the story. It will not tell you what's right, what's wrong. Butler is just telling you a story. Like Anita said, it's up to the readers to interpret, like how to take the story and what to take away from the story.
And I also, okay, finish your
Mhm.
thought. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I wanted to reply to Kiran. It's not racism. I wanted to say the kind of I'm not getting that word. Like what is it called? Um, Differentiation that people are facing because of the skin of their color. What's that word? Uh, Color of their skin, or whatever. Um,
Bigotry, actually.
Not bigotry also, but you treat people differently, right? What's that word? Someday I just don't get it. So basically, you being treated differently for the color of your skin. So you are black, so you are supposed to be this way. So it doesn't matter your education. So mm, that's why when in one of these chapters towards the end, she says that we are just looked upon basically on the color of our skin. Doesn't matter you have education, doesn't matter you have come from, even though Rufus knows she has come from the future, Rufus never asks her what is there in the future, right? Have you noticed that? Even Valen, Tom Valen also, they are in some way they know it is wrong, and maybe they don't want to hear about the future where they are proven wrong. I'm
They're
thinking that way.
they're
Otherwise, why wouldn't you be curious about the future? Right?
they're scared of what to learn, actually, because they have seen Dana how educated she was, so they don't want to know anything at all about that.
Hmm. Yeah. Joanna has commented beautifully, said Angie. I agree. Butler doesn't tell us what to think. I would say this is still science fiction, but not hard science fiction. Genre bending between science fiction, literary fiction, and historical fiction. Yeah. Yeah. That's right. Yeah, science fiction part is only the time travel part. So, of course, when there is time travel involved, it somehow falls into the category of science fiction. But the main part of the story is definitely, uh, yeah, the themes
Yeah.
like racism and, yeah, segregation and all that. Yeah.
And another thing I like about this book is how Butler portrayed both Tom Whalen and Rufus Whalen. Um Thankfully, they aren't shown as good masters. At the same time, they are not completely bad, because there are worse scenarios, worse cases. It was mentioned. Butler mentioned someone. Let a woman die, pregnant woman die,
Hmm.
while giving birth, while tying her up. She finally lost her baby, and I think it was mentioned just like that.
Mm-hmm.
So these
Okay.
people, both Tom Whalen and Rufus, are both have some kind of in their time period, they are not exactly bad masters, you know
Yeah,
uh,
they're mostly victim of their time
no,
time
I
period,
I
I think.
I won't call exactly victim. They are very business savvy when it comes to slaves.
Hmm.
Diana mentioned something like, how Tom sold three children of her cook Sarah and let her
Yeah.
keep her daughter Carrie. It's not just because Carrie is deaf or something. Because of Carrie, Sarah is in line. She is not
Mm,
trying to run away or something. Because of Carrie, after that, Nigel is in line because he
mm,
has wife and he's so Carrie not just work hard, not just gave birth to other slaves. She kept in line both her mother and husband. Okay, that's the
mm.
reason Rufus and Tom both encouraged those kind of relationships in field.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
very
but because Yeah, because at the end of the day, he wants to get his work done, right? His business needs to run, right? So that's all. Well, so Tom Bellin is, for me, there is no in between. He is properly business minded, but because I think, and Rufus would have turned out to be exactly like his father, but I think Rufus is a very confusing character because sometimes I don't know what to think of him, because sometimes he does these most atrocious things and he regrets them later on. So I mean, I like he loves this lady. What's her name? Alice.
Alice.
And then he thinks it's okay for him to force himself upon her. So I'm a very bit confused. I'm very confused when it comes to Rufus, but definitely don't like him. Definitely don't like him.
I mean, Rufus, as a kid, he started as okay, there is some kind of hope. He can be a good person. That's why Dana also kind of formed a bond with him. Even she kind of hoped that Rufus, there is hope with the Rufus. But later on, he completely, turned into kind of a psychopath.
Mm,
It's not, for me at least personally, just regretting is not just enough.
mm,
Because even in our time period we see many people, husbands, even in their drunken states beat their wives, and later I was like, okay, I'm so sorry, please don't leave me, I love you so much, and they repeat that again. It's the same
yeah.
exact same kind of mentality I see with Rufus. you
Mm,
know
mm,
they they regret it because they're forced to do it.
mm-hmm.
They don't regret hitting them.
Mm. What scares me a lot is that some things that we take for granted, right? Like many things that what we are is sometimes what we learn from our upbringing or the society that we are living in, the standard of the society that we are living in, right? So the question is, what if I was a male born in 1800s, somewhere in Maryland, right? Just like Rufus. Would I be like Rufus? Is the question. So, am I myself, right? Or am I just a product of my times and I have no say over my character or my morality?
This is what I thought about. Actually, I had this. I wondered, both. I mean, be it anyone, a slave owner, they're used to, they have that kind of power to, abuse their slaves, be it whipping or any kind of punishment. They're, used to feel that power, hitting them, that power over another human being. So is it, does that make, do they, does it make them abusive to their children and wife too, that they want to feel the same power? Or is
Mm,
it possible for them to be only, be abusive to slaves and be a good people with their own family members? I wondered about it.
mm-hmm. Yeah. Uh, Sneha Menon, she has commented toxic patriarchy then was the norm, I guess. Yeah, and it's it's more than patriarchy. Yeah, of course patriarchy is there, but it was more than that also, right? This power that comes with this whole system of slavery in place, that you buy somebody, you give money, you buy somebody, and then you own that person, and that person has no say in no say whatsoever in whatever he's doing in his own life, right? Everything is dictated by somebody else, apparently, who has all the rights over his wishes, his likes, what he eats, where he sleeps, what time he sleeps, where he works, whether he can have children, whether he can marry this person or that person. Everything is decided for you by somebody else, and that is such a horrendous thing if you imagine now, you know to think about. But my worry is, you know all these morality or good things or character that we are all, you know proud of having or that we possess, Would that be so different if we were born in those times? So I think from this story, I think the main takeaway is that to think about it, like, maybe 50 years down the lane or 100 years down the lane, people then living then would look back at us and think, oh my God, how morally degraded we're there, because they have their own perspective. Life would have progressed, human society would have progressed to a different level altogether. So we are all products of our time, and this is something that I think I haven't thought about much. Yeah, but this book made me think, I think, because Kevin changes, Dana also changes according to their time. I mean, fundamentally they might have not changed, but their behavior, their actions, everything changed so that they blend in with the system that they are
Therefore,
in.
to be honest, to be fair, they're forced to change. When for an example, when Dana was sent to work in a field. Okay, so whenever that overseer, that supervisor comes, he yells at Dana for to work faster. Sometimes he hits her. So Dana was like, by the end, the sound of his, coming itself scared her. She became just jumpy.
Right.
How easily one puts fear into them, how easily, survival is one of the fundamental natures of humans. So how easy to, be scared, how easy to modify ourselves for our own
Hmm.
survival. It is very easy. That's what scared me about this book.
That's true. That's true. But then there are some people who come along in history who stand up and make changes in changes, right? And
Yeah.
yeah, but then there is still hope,
Thank
I
you.
think.
Thank you, Kiran, right?
Kiran,
Yeah,
yes.
sorry. I mean, it's nice to meet you too, and I will subscribe you too once I'm done with the show. Okay, to add to your point, see, it's kind of, Dana has a lot to lose. She has a life, she has a good life in her present time, so she doesn't want to, stand up there, and she doesn't want to die there. See, the other
Mm.
people, I mean, it's kind of, a weird for me to support that kind of behavior, because I'm completely different with my friends and all, where I support straightforward, upfront, get killed in 5 minutes kind of nature. But here I'm so completely supporting the other behavior. Whereas other people, who are living there in slavery from, from their birth, who are being through all those kind of whipping and horrifying things, they're desperate to get out of that. I think
Mm.
everyone everyone makes their decisions based on what they have been through and what they want.
Hmm.
It's kind of, uh, you know easy to judge others.
Yeah.
Even that is a dialogue in this book, where that one guy from field is interested in Dana, and he comes to ask her,
Oh yeah, yeah. I forgot it.
Sam.
Sam. Sam. Yeah.
He was like,
Mm.
"Are you happy with Rufus?" They think she has a relationship with Rufus, and he was like, "Are you happy with him? Do you want to be with him?" Like, he was. Then she says, "I don't care what some folks say. They are letting him, that supervisor, torture them." Then that guy, Sam asks, like, letting him. Then she exactly say that, yes, they are letting him to keep the
Him.
skin on their backs, to breathe, to survive. I am
Mm.
doing what I need to survive. Everyone make their own choices to
Choices.
survive.
Hmm. Yeah. There is a small thing about, there is a small paragraph where actually Dana recognizes that when she is back, but second time or something, she comes back from the 1800s, but Kevin is left behind.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that time she says, a place like this would endanger him in a way I didn't want to talk to him about. If he was stranded here for years, some part of this place would rub off on him. But if he survived here, it would be because he managed to tolerate the life here. Yeah,
You
he
wouldn't
wouldn't
have
have to
to
take
take
part
part
in.
in it, but you would have to keep quiet about it. Even I know that down. That's a very
She was, yeah. Go ahead, go
no.
ahead.
Please
No,
go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead. It's okay. You
No, what
started
I
it.
was saying is she was very perceptive. She knew this was coming. This could happen, and that's really admirable from her side, right? She saw this thing happening or coming, that this could happen if he stays here longer.
And it also brings an important point. It's just keeping quiet about it is also wrong, no matter what is going on. I mean, here the theme is slavery, but be it any, suppose you know your friend raped someone, or your somebody, keeping quiet about it is almost equal to taking part in it. You are being
Yeah.
part of that atrocity. You can't keep quiet and say that, okay, I'm not like that, I'm a good person.
Hmm. That's true. But like you said, I think uh, Dana, now that after discussing, I feel that yeah, I cannot we cannot judge Dana or Kevin for that matter, because all they want to do is survive, make sure that Rufus survives, and yeah, and until at least Hagar, the direct ancestor is born, and then they can just come back. So that's their survival. What do you call that? Uh, plan, right? To make sure that you're
Okay,
alive and you
I have
survive.
a question. I have a question here. Okay, maybe it's. I mean, we don't have any answer for that, but you can tell me your thought on that.
Yeah.
By the end, when Rufus is trying to force himself on Nana. Okay, by the
Hmm.
time Nana's ancestor is already born. Suppose if she isn't born yet, if Rufus has tried to force himself on Dana, uh, what do you think would have happened?
Uh,
Do you think Dana would have chose to, finish completely, or
No, because I think she would have still endured whatever he would do, because for her the main theme was to make sure that this child is born, right? Hagar is born, so that because if her ancestor is not there, then that's kind of a uh, today I'm at loss for words today. I'm not getting any words that I want to talk. So basically, the time travel paradox. Ah, got it. So there is this paradox, right? So you go back in time and kill your grandfather. Will you still be alive? Something like that situation. So she needs to make sure that Hagar is born. So I think she would have endured whatever this guy would have done to her, Rufus. What do
I,
you think?
I don't know. I'm scared to think actually, because um, this is where my other thing, my actual nature comes out. I want him. I want her to kill him. That's all. Forget everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you know
But I
it's a very
think.
it's a
Mhm.
very personal choice how much one wants to endure, how much, yeah, we cannot judge, or we cannot I mean, if someone makes a choice, I don't think we can judge it. It's their endurance, it's
Absolutely
very
not.
personal.
Yeah. Hmm. Yes, that's true. So, anything more? Anything that I missed out? Any themes that you want to discuss? Uh, or I think I covered everything that I have written down here. Nothing much.
I just want to say one point. I
Hmm.
really, this is why I really like Butler. She was one when Kevin was held back. When Dana is back, she spent some time, around a week, in her present time. Then she was trying to read everything about history. I mean, about racism and all, and she came across one World War II book. Okay,
Hmm.
the quote
Hmm.
there was, Um a book of excerpts from the recollection of concentration camp survivors, stories of beatings, starvations, filth, disease, torture, every possible degradation, as though the Germans had been trying to do in only few years what the Americans had worked at for nearly 200. You know,
Yeah, I
uh,
remember that. Yeah.
I really like the way, she was. This is a book about World War II. This is a book
Mm.
about what Germans did. You know,
Mhm.
Butler highlighted what Germans did. At the same time, she mentions Americans also did it. She acknowledged that.
Mhm.
Very
Mhm.
few people do that. Even we all did that in our own ways. Okay, but we are always ready to jump at others' throats at that country did it or
Right.
that person did it. It's very rarely few people acknowledge what they own. I mean, their own people did something.
Mhm. Mhm. That's true. Yeah. That was a good point. uh
Your
yeah.
final thoughts?
Final thoughts would be, I want everybody to read this book, but be ready because there is a lot of emotional turmoil. Uh, you will be in conflicts when it comes to some of the characters. You don't know whether to vouch for them or not. Some of them might be upfront despicable, but at the same time, there are characters which are so real that you don't know what to think about them. Like, for example, now that after this discussion, even Rufus seems very real to me. The so well written characters. I think this book can give you unforgettable characters and a theme that needs to be explored more and more. And at least for me, I need to read more from Butler and also more books based on, slavery, oppression, and even when it comes to India, casteist oppression, everything. I need to explore those topics more. I have read a lot of non-fiction books related to this, but when you read a fiction book based on these themes, it gives you a whole new, broader perspective, I feel. So that's my conclusion. I think I would definitely rate this 5 out of 5.
As you said, actually, Rufus is the most realistic character.
Mm.
I have seen many people like that where they don't realize the difference actually. Here Rufus loves Alice. He wants to have her, at any cost. It doesn't matter that she doesn't love him back. How many movies we have seen that with that theme actually, Angie,
Yeah,
in Indian movies
eh,
actually.
absolutely. Mm. They
It's
normalize it in our movies, right? They
yeah.
just normalize it. It's
I
something
mean,
that,
actually, there is a difference. If it is a negative character, I mean, a
hmm,
hero will come and save the heroine, actress.
right,
But if it is a
exactly.
positive
But the
character,
hero will again end up doing the same thing.
exactly. If it is a hero, she has to love him back. Otherwise, dialogues will be there. You women don't like good people,
Hmm.
etc. That
Judgmental. Yeah.
Yeah, that is kind of normalized. Rufus is completely realistic character.
Hmm.
That's why this book is this book has such an impact on me. I just want to say one thing at the end. This book kind of scared me because it made me think how many of these things happened, or some of them happening in our present world. You don't know. No, I don't mean any offense to anyone. I understand we have come a long way from these 1800 slavery times. I understand. I mean, I don't want to compare anything to what these people have gone through in that time. I don't want to reduce their torture or anything. At the same time, most of the themes, I think, oh my God, this happened in India too. Oh my God, I have seen this in India too. I myself, in my time, have seen this thing. So
Absolutely. Yeah. Hmm.
many things made me feel like that.
Hmm.
This is a very impactful book for me.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
A lot to reflect on, a lot to learn about, a lot to think about actually, right? And it brings to your surface things that have been, lying deep inside. You have observed these things in movies, you have observed these things in other people's life, or you see your friends or far relatives going through this, but it's lying deep in you, and then these all these instances in your own life surfaces, and then you realize, oh, you try to relate. Okay, so these are still relevant topics, and still we are, as humanity, struggling to come out of all this. You're
We
right.
have, I mean, we have made a lot of progress, but we have a lot to go on.
Yeah, a long way to go. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So, how would you? So, finally, how would you rate this? Like, what would you rate this book as?
For just themes, I give it 5 stars. What it made me think, how much I thought about, how much I reflected on, I definitely give it 5 stars. But I completely understand why some science fiction fans don't, like it. Why some science fiction fans kind of disappointed with this book. I kind of understand that because that is not there. And that part of is why time travel, how it is happening, is not discussed scientifically. So I kind of
Mm,
understand where they're coming from, but I did not care about that. I did not care if there aren't powerful dialogues they want when it comes to that time period, when it comes to that kind of issues this book explored. But what this book made me feel, it completely 5 stars.
yeah, I think with something Joanna typed earlier, that if she says, I think the best science fiction highlights important themes and provides important thought-provoking social commentary. So, and that's what this book is about. She has summarized it very well. Because in this, if you go into, seeing flying cars and all those kind of things, or you know, pure hardcore science fiction, you will be disappointed. But if you go in to see, to hear, listen to a story about humans and human emotions, but in a different, but be transported to a different time altogether, in that way it is a science fiction. If you think about that,
Yes.
you're transported to a different time period altogether, but at the same time there is so much importance given to human feelings and emotions and interactions. And yeah, so
how much humans can endure, how much what kind of choices we make for our own survival. That's all this
right,
book is about.
that's true. And I think both of us will recommend this to anybody who love to read a great story.
Yeah, everyone should read this actually.
Yes. And I'm looking forward to my next Octavia E. Butler book. I think I'm going to read Wild Seed. So yeah, that's my next one in line. So I don't think we have any more comments. I am really thankful to Anita for coming to my channel and discussing this. And I had a great time reading this book. And I am thankful to everybody who joined this live stream and also who will be watching us in replay. So yeah, that's it. This is the end of this discussion. Thank you, Anita.
Thank you for reading this with me, and thank you for asking me to join discussing this one, and thanks
Anytime.
for everyone for joining.
Thank you, guys.
Bye.